the best prognostic indicator for an emerging adult is their parents' willingness to continue to do their own healing work. That willingness to continue to hold up the mirror on yourself gently, right? With curiosity, with self-compassion. But that steady focus on yourself and your healing is actually the best gift you can give your kid, because it keeps you from doing the thing of slipping into shame or denial or minimizing. It also keeps you from making it all about you.
Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your divorce survival guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back, and now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you all had a lovely and relaxing Mother's Day. And if you didn't, I want you to take some time to kind of write a little bit of a post-mortem so that you can remember next Mother's Day what to ask for, what to plan for, just how to kind of take care of yourself, right? Sometimes we forget a year later. So just take a minute, make some notes. I think I told you this last week how I do it. I put it as a reminder in my phone to come up the next year. However you want to do it, I would love to see you take care of yourself in that way, in some way. And if it was great, write that down too. Like what worked. I will say that I had one of the best Mother's Days I have ever had this year. And I'm, fucking thrilled about it. Usually it's incredibly disappointing and disheartening and sad and stressful because everything's on me somehow. And this year it wasn't. And it was wonderful. And I had my amazing boyfriend with me by my side, and that always makes everything better. But being partnered on the holiday was really just special. I hope that for all of you too in the future, if that's what you choose, to either find someone in your life who's special and who supports and loves and honors you the way that you deserve, or for you to do that for yourself. So I want to shift gears here, and we are going to talk about today's episode. Dr. Alexandra Solomon is back with me. She is internationally recognized as one of today's most trusted voices in the world of relationships. I adore her. She's been on the show a few times, and I am so happy that she came back today. We're talking about parenting through regret and repair. So when you've left a toxic marriage and your kids, especially your adult kids, have spent years steeped in that environment, the guilt can be crushing. And a lot of moms want to know, how do I help my kids heal? How do I set them up for success when I feel like I've already failed them by keeping them in this toxicity for as long as I did? We're going to get into the deep stuff today and talk about what it means to let our children hold their truth, even when it hurts us a little bit. And we're going to talk about how your healing is the best gift that you can give your child. Guiding them towards doing their own work through doing your own work is going to be really important in this process. Lots of juicy, deep stuff and hard stuff in this conversation. But for every mother who wonders if it's too late to get it right, it is not. It's never too late. So here's my conversation with Dr. Alexandra Solomon. Alexandra, thank you so much for coming back on to the show. I love talking to you always.
I'm always a yes whenever you reach out because I love talking to you as well.
I love it. Yay. There's a couple things that I want to talk about today, and I think they are somewhat in the same vein, really. But A question that I get often from my listeners and from my clients is about when they, especially if they have adult children and they're finally getting out of this toxic and abusive relationship, marriage, their children have been steeped in that trauma for so long.
Mm-hmm.
The question is like, how do I help them heal? How do I help my kids heal while I'm kind of going through it? And how do I set them up for success when I feel like I've already failed them?
Oh, yes. First of all, I have the utmost respect for anybody who would sit with this question. Because think about how many people there are who raise their kids in toxic and abusive households. And then when their kids were adults, if they, God willing, got out of it, said to their kids, it didn't happen. It wasn't that bad. Don't worry about it. So anybody who's going to say to their kids, I am an ally to you in your healing, that is so courageous. And that is not to be minimized or the volume turned down on that even a little bit. So right there, your willingness to say, listen, I didn't know then what I knew now. I couldn't do then what I did now. And I'm here with you. That requires, there's so much courage in that. There's so much, in order to do that, you have to resist the pulls of shame, the pulls of denial. So even to be able to look your kids in the eye and say, all right, I'm here with you, baby. Like, how do I support you on your healing journey? That's beautiful. That counts for a ton. That's where I want to start us.
You know what? Thank you for saying that, because I think that is so, so true. And I think it's also the first step in all of this, right? To have your children experience being witnessed by you is kind of step one.
Yeah.
Right? To say,
right.
Yeah, you're right. And to name the thing, to unravel any sort of feeling of doubt or gaslighting that they may have felt in their childhood, all of that, to say, to acknowledge it, to name it for them. It's really powerful.
It's really powerful. And it also is, I want to also put this in a normative developmental frame. So if I'm talking like directly to the listener now, if you take your toxic abusive marriage and you put it off to one side and you just put yourself face to face with your emerging adult kid, part of the parenting of an emerging adult kid is bearing witness to all of your slip ups, all of your short-sightedness, because the only way a kid, the fancy word is differentiate. What emerging adulthood is about is differentiation. Differentiation means I can see my mom as a woman, as a human, not just my mom. So every single kid who ever leaves the nest and forges a path of their own has to be able to develop a measure of critical thinking skills vis-a-vis their parent. I'm the parent of two emerging adult kids. And I tell you what, I've been going through the ringer for the last few years, my kids now, when they point out the ways that I came up short, the things that I didn't do, and I have to take a deep breath, put a hand on my heart, ask my inner child to go take a little rest because, I need a more empowered version of myself to bear witness to my kids' reckoning. But I know the thing I remind myself of is this has to happen. Our kids have to be able to see us as fallible. They have to be able to think critically about their own childhoods. That is part of differentiation. So even without the added layers and complexities of a problematic marriage, this process is normative. It has to happen.
Thank you for saying that. Absolutely. I'm going through it too. And it's, and
it's not for the faint of heart.
It is not. And mine's not leaving the nest, by the way. So there's all of that. I mean, absolutely. Right. And there is so much of that in our parenting journey along the way where we're going, is this just normal developmental stuff, or is this actually being informed by what is happening in the home? Right. And sometimes it's really hard to pull those things apart.
And I think the next piece of it is, what all of the research about child, emerging adult development shows is the best prognostic indicator for an emerging adult is their parents' willingness to continue to do their own healing work. A parent with anybody, the people in your community are seekers, right? They're on their healing journeys. They're pattern breakers. They are trying to learn and shift and grow. And that willingness to continue to hold up the mirror on yourself gently, right? With curiosity, with self-compassion. But that steady focus on yourself and your healing is actually the best gift you can give your kid, because it keeps you from doing the thing of slipping into shame or denial or minimizing. It also keeps you from making it all about you. I think one of the mistakes that self-aware parents make is every single challenge that their kid faces, they draw a line from that kid's challenge to their own parental F-ups. And there's a way in which that overcorrection, that saying, aha, that thing you're struggling with now, that's because I didn't do this and I fell short on this and da 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 da. And there's a way that when we do that, what we think we're being is responsible and taking accountability. But there's a way, if we do it too much, we rob our kid of the blessings and the gifts of their own journey. You know what I mean?
Yes. And it's a hard balance, right? Because we do want to be like, oh God, shit, I did that thing. And that's what that's what it is. It's my fault or whatever, that, because we feel like that can take it away or that can heal it or explain it, rather than allowing them to just have had their own experience, whatever it is. Right. Yep. And rather than be the one to heal it and fix it, be like, you know what? That might be something this is why I think all parents should pay for our kids' therapy.
That was my next thing. That's my next thing.
It should be
you want
like,
to do something? Yeah.
You want to do something?
Right.
Pay for therapy. Right? Like, yes,
that's right.
Perhaps we did do it. And perhaps because we all do, as you said, like we, as parents, part of our job is fucking up. Like that's just the deal. And so we're not going to do it perfectly. We're not going to not hurt them, but to give them the tools and the explanations and the understanding to be like, you know what, that's something, you're right. That might have been a big issue for you in your childhood. I don't think maybe I'm not the person to talk to about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have my own bias on it.
Well, okay. So I guess what we're saying here is being careful to not rob your kid of the ability for them to story it for themselves, right? Because because my kids will be like, Mom, back up, because I'll be like, oh my God. Okay, this thing you're dealing with is because I did this and da da da. And it ends up feeling really claustrophobic for them. It's like I'm too much in their experience trying to narrate it and put it together for them. So it's like, can we stay on our own side of the street? And yes, be accountable, be bearing witness, as you said before, without going faster than them and trying to create the story of it for them, because then that's, I think, the part that robs them of the ability for them to put it in their own context. There's such a privilege to be able to write your own story. And if your parent, in an earnest effort to be accountable, is going faster than you, then what we're doing is robbing our kids of the chance for them to create their own story.
And it's really hard for us as practitioners, right? Like, you're like, it's like we have studied this. We understand. We know what's going on. Right. And so, and even more so important for us to stay out of it.
Right. That's right. That's right. Your clients and your listeners who are concerned about this are concerned for good reasons, because the research does indicate that those of us who grow up in homes where we witness unhealthy dynamics, we are at risk of repeating them because it's what we learn love is, what relationships are. It's the template, what I call the love templates. Your listeners who are concerned they're not pulling that concern out of thin air, right? So it's just what we're finessing here is the how. So
that's right. That's right. And I think that it's important to also point out that, like, it doesn't mean it's too, because the shame and the beating up of the self in the, oh my God, I didn't leave sooner, because, like, look what I've done. I've created this blueprint. I've already installed the template. It's my fault because I didn't get out sooner. It doesn't mean it's the end of the road, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We're still, our parenting doesn't stop when our kids turn 18. And we have, I've had the privilege of for 25 years teaching this undergraduate relationship education class called Marriage 101 at Northwestern. And so I'm with students, when they're at that emerging adult inflection points. And that is one of the things that just stands out so clearly to me is that their childhood is over, but they're now entering this phase where they're seeing they're getting to have that grown up to grown up relationship. And so lots of them will get to witness their parent perhaps in a second or third relationship that is healthier because now the parent has got some skills and perspectives they didn't have before. And so those relationships like that, that the step parent that you inherit when you're 25 or whatever, it doesn't become a step parent in the same way, but my gosh, that relationship becomes another kind of offering. None of us are ever fully cooked. So we're always learning things from the relationships we get to witness up close. So when you love again, if you offer something different to your kids, that relationship also gives your kids, your adult kids, all kinds of lessons and windows and insights,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's so important. Just, on a personal note, the reason I was single for 8 years was that I was not willing to settle, partly because first of all, I could not be in another toxic relationship. I was like, forget it. Like, I would rather be single. Yeah. I would rather model to my child what, singlehood, being okay, being single, being okay, not being in a relationship is rather than like a revolving door of more toxicity. I'm super, super psyched and blessed that something totally extraordinary has come into my life and that he does get to see that, right? Because he has not seen that from either of his parents and, forever. So I think it's really exciting, but also I was willing to just be alone in that. Right. And I do hope, like my biggest hope for one of my biggest hopes for my relationship with Ethan is that my son gets to see somebody just like totally fucking adoring me. Yes. And, that I totally adore and that it's like, wow, that's a thing. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. But, and I think we can talk about sort of what gets us there, right? But I want to keep the focus on the children right now.
I'm doing a very good job. I'm doing a very good job of not derailing us into like, okay, give me all the dirt on you and Ethan. I want to hear the whole story. I'm doing a very good job of, resisting the urge to be like, spill the tea. Because I see you on where, I have seen your posts and I'm like, oh my God, I'm cheering for you. I'm cheering for Ethan. And it's just beautiful. Thank you. I love a love story.
It is. Listen, it is. I literally didn't know that it could be this good. Like I had no idea. I always see people and I'm like you and your husband and like, other friends of mine and they're like long-term, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably too late for me to find the person who's going to be like literally my best friend. And, like we are so compatible. It's bizarre.
Aww.
Whether we're like doing chores or, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We're having a blast and so much fun. And then also like real intimacy and to experience this and to know that that's what I'm now get to model to my kid is like, oh my God, what a privilege.
It's a total privilege. It's a total privilege. And it's one that I imagine that you and Ethan have both, right? You both have done your journeys, right? To get to this point. And I think when I have the privilege of being near a story like yours, I think there's a way I'm so protective of any couple, any loving again couple saying anything less than the most beautiful things about their relationship. Like this is not a less than love story in any way, shape or form. But I think our culture does. I mean, we've put the sort of like one and done story up on a pedestal, we've put divorce down. We've done so much shaming and icky stuff around divorce, which you have been a huge voice in pushing back against all of those critical, unhelpful narratives. And I think that this, I think there's something that is so sacred about the loving again love story that is that deserves to be held in its own warm light, the warmest of lights, that it is nothing less than full on its own and beautiful. So I'm really happy. I'm happy that you are talking about it on your show and modeling, just just speaking lovingly about everything that is possible whenever we get to have that experience of being loved.
Thank you for saying all of that, because it is true. It does feel like I get to have this thing that, again, like I literally did not think I was ever going to experience. I just didn't. I had sort of, written it as like, well, I guess that's for other people. I guess that's not for me. And I'm okay with it. Like, I was sad, obviously. I had a lot of feelings about it, but I had come to the point in my life where I was going to be okay if it never happened. But I think you're right. I think it's so important to tell the stories of I love how you put that, the loving again. And look, if Ethan and I had met in our 20s and 30s, and we did, like, our lives have like somehow like crisscrossed over many, many, many years, many decades, and not hit until when it was going to be right. Yeah, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I wish it for everybody. I wish it for everybody. And what I wish more is for...
Oh, me too.
Right. And what I wish more is that people would not settle before it's right. Which I did, Ethan did, we've all done, right? To not settle for less than extraordinary.
One of the really solid foundations that I often see with loving again relationships is people come in really with a kind of like intentionality and care that comes from experience, like
That's
knowing
right.
how to care for somebody else just from experience. There's something that the experiences have taught them that helps them enter in differently. And I think that becomes a protective factor for the relationship.
Yes. I think I can definitely say that that's true for me and Ethan. I mean, one of the things that I loved about Ethan in the beginning was that he said, like, I date with intention. Like, my intention is to not be dating, you know? Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. My intention is to get off of this app as soon as possible. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go back to our children. You do such a good job. Like, if I could just send my son to Northwestern to take your class, that would be great. But not everybody gets to go to. I always joke that, like, they don't teach relationships at school, except for Dr. Alexandra Solomon, who does.
That's right. I do.
You do. But for those of us whose kids are not going to Northwestern, how can we educate our kids and young adults about healthy relationships other than like leaving the toxic ones? Because I think that's, definitely primary. But what else can we do? How do we talk about this with them? How do we explain it to them?
I will say, because I only get to teach 100 and something students a year at Northwestern, we have turned the Marriage 101 curriculum into a self-guided online course that I make available to every young person, so we can I'm more than happy to share that information with your crew. So if there's somebody out there who wants to, send their emerging adult my way, we'll make it happen for them, because this is content that all of our young people should have. I think that the mamas of the world are some of my best. I now, many of my students come into my class like, my mom told me I got to take your class because she listens to your podcast or she took your e-course. So the mamas are oftentimes my best, evangelists and ambassadors. So I love, I call them intergenerational love dialogues. I love when generations come together, parents, emerging adult kids or grandparents, and have conversations, shoulder to shoulder, kind of like looking at the relationship landscape together, and I think that there's a lot to be learned in both directions. I think the biggest mistake that we elders make is that we can get a little bit like pedantic, and preachy. And if we start doing the like, back in my day, it was better because of X, Y, or Z. If we're anywhere near that realm, the younger generation will understandably shut off, and just shut down. And we ought not do that, because we don't know what it's like to come of age in this moment, And
Absolutely.
so travelers like alongside and just like asking questions and being curious about what, here's some of the things I've been hearing about or reading about. Like, what does that look like for you? How is that showing up for you and with your friends? What are some of the questions that you all are struggling with and talking through? So to just be, I think that's the biggest one, to make sure that we are listening more than we talk. Those are some of the first blush like principles that are helpful to like get a conversation going.
Yes. I want to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to pick up where we were just talking about, because I think it's really important. Divorce is hard. No question about it. The uncertainty, the isolation, it can feel like you're drowning. But you don't have to go through this alone. There's a place where you can gather with other women going through divorce and get expert advice from professionals like me. Phoenix Rising, a divorce empowerment collective. Phoenix Rising is an ongoing group coaching program designed to walk you through some of the hardest parts of your divorce in community with other women who are going through it too. In Phoenix Rising, you get 3 live coaching sessions with me every month, plus a guest expert call with a top industry professional every month. You'll learn exactly what to do, when and how, but more importantly, you'll have a community of women who truly understand. Because when women come together and share their stories, something powerful happens. We rise, we gain strength, we reclaim our voices, and we move forward, not just surviving, but thriving. Inside Phoenix Rising, you'll get expert guidance, a safe and supportive space, and the kind of sisterhood that changes everything. Enrollment is always open, so join us at kateanthony.com/decided today. That's kateanthony.com/decided, and we will welcome you with open arms. Okay, guys, I have to tell you about something that has seriously made my life easier. Wild Pastures. So I've been ordering from them for the last few months, and I love having high quality pasture-raised meat right in my freezer, ready to go whenever I need it. No last minute grocery runs, no sketchy labels, just clean, delicious meat I can trust. If you're anything like me, short on time, but still want to cook real healthy meals, this is a game changer. Their 100% grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chicken and pork, and wild-caught seafood are all delivered straight to your door, so you always have something fresh to defrost and cook without a ton of hassle. And the best part? It's affordable. They cut out the middleman so that you get top-quality meat at the lowest prices. So if you want to eat better without making life harder, check out Wild Pastures. Go to kateanthony.com/wildpastures for $20 off your first subscription. Okay, so we are back. And before the break, we were talking about, I like this distinction of we don't know what it's like to grow up in this day and age. In our culture, in the information age, the technology age, and that we can't talk about like, well, in my day, we used to connect in this way and it was better, because like that is shitty, right? First of all, and we don't even know if it's true.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I often say, to my son and to his friends, like when they all come over, I am the house where all of the kids gather. So I'm like mom to lots of kids
I love that.
in this, for better or worse. They all just walk in, they know where the key is. I'm like, oh, everybody's here. Okay. But I get insights into I get insights into their relationships, and they all come and sit down and want to talk about their relationships with me, which is adorable. And what I'm always struck by, and I'm always telling them, is, oh my God, you guys are so much more emotionally intelligent. Like I would never have identified these patterns as a, as a 19, 20-year-old. Like this is insane that that this is, gaslighting, or that you can see that this is toxic, or that you know that this is healthy. Like, I love it. I love it for them.
I do too. I think this generation asks so many important questions, so many things that we just I know for me that we're just like downloaded into my brain. It's like, this is normal. This is the trajectory. This is what you should want. I think that this generation just asks so many questions. And it does mean, I think when I meet with parents, like every year the university has me give a talk at family weekend. And so, I stay after, and lots of parents of college students, stay after. And the most common concern they express is my college students not even dating. They have no relationship experience, and they're very panicked because they think about they think about where they were when they were 18, 19, 20, and they oftentimes had more experience or more interest than their kids are showing. And what the data suggests to us is that these young folks they are on a slower relationship trajectory. So that is normative. And I think it's a number of factors. And one of them is that there are more questions about identity, sexuality, gender expression. What kind of a relationship do you want? And I think when there are more questions about the self, it does understandably create a delay in relationship experience. Like, I got to get my own house in order before I start exploring. And I sometimes will push back a little bit on my college students and say that, sometimes you don't know. The best way to learn about yourself is putting yourself in the ring. So I think there is sometimes in the younger generation, like a bit of perfectionism. Like, I have to be totally, totally okay before I try dating and sex and relationship experience. And I try to soften that message a little bit, because I think there's a lot of truth, some truth in the middle there, because our relationships are the most powerful crucibles for growth and self-understanding. But they're worried. They're worried about getting their hearts broken, and they're very worried about hurting somebody else. They're very worried about breaking somebody else's heart. So all of that caution, which is, not unfounded. This generation struggles more with mental health challenges than earlier generations as well. So it's not unfounded concerns, but I think there's oftentimes, just maybe a little bit of underestimating people's resilience and capacity to heal. In my class now, I talk about breakups. I talk about healing from a breakup and healing from heartbreak, because that's a skill. It's a skill that every young adult needs to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I think that there is this growing awareness of and acceptance of neurodiversity, mental health, trauma, all of these, quote, buzzwords, but they really are becoming woven into the fabric of our culture and relationships. And so they are, I think we have so much more self-aware, as you say, relational self-awareness. Like, how do I actually function in a relationship? And therefore, what do I need in a relationship? Do you see them being that intentional in that way?
I do. I think there's a lot of, there's also these, this generation has a lot of sort of micro identity labels, like lots of ways to kind of in more micro ways define themselves. That is, I think, a reflection of the fact that they were raised by, our generation, which we grew up with Oprah and self-help books. And, so I think we raised our kids to be curious about self and to see self as a project, so that you get to know yourself. And so I think it's part of that. And I think it also is a desire to be known. And so I walk this line carefully to say that all of these kind of micro labels that capture who you are and what you think you want of relationship, those are all wonderful and they are helpful, but they also, just like any label, it doesn't have to be fixed. So be careful to not confound who you are with the label that you're putting on yourself, because you are evolving and you get to evolve and be surprised. I think, the moment you say you couldn't possibly fall in love with somebody like this, the universe is going to send you somebody and, like that. And
that's exactly right.
So I think that's where we can be. I think it's where the older generation, I think we can provide a little bit of that, softening. And I think we can do it from a self-compassionate way. Let yourself, it's okay to be a little bit mysterious or a little bit confusing even to yourself, and to just be careful to not be so fixed, to let yourself continue to grow and to be changed. I think of the self, I think that the nature of the self is relational. So it is precisely in our relational experiences that we learn more about who we are and what we want. So let yourself be moved and changed by all of your relationships, your friendships, your relationship with teachers and mentors, and certainly your romantic relationships.
Yes, I could not agree more.
Mm.
I remember my divorce, and I was like, I was single for a while. I was dating a lot. And then I was like, no, I need to be single. I need to like focus on myself or whatever. And I remember my therapist saying like, that's not a bad idea. And also, you really learn who you are through the dating process. You learn about
Mm.
yourself and you can heal through that process as well, because being in relationship, like everybody's great when they're on their own. It's being in a relationship is where shit gets triggered and you're like, I got to confront that about myself, right? And it's like as
Uh-huh.
long as your focus is on yourself in that process, it's a great learning ground, right? We're all amazing when we're single.
That's right. Okay, so maybe that's especially where we want your community, where they are folks who are kind of coming through their own divorces, where we want them to be especially careful around their kids' dating experiences. I think when you've gone through a divorce yourself, I think one of the things that a parent can be thinking is this quote unquote, like, I don't want my kids to make the same mistakes I made.
That's
I think
right.
that is a
Yes.
refrain I hear so much. And that is like, to me, that ends up being kind of a nails in the chalkboard thing because a it's very like it's a statement that is not self-compassionate, because it says that you
Mm.
made mistakes versus what I call them FGOs, fucking growth opportunities. Uh, so I don't like the word mistakes. So I think it's
Yes.
a like it's self-critical of your own journey.
That's
And
right.
B, your kid literally can't make the same mistakes you made because they aren't you. Their context is different than your context. So, and C, it is you parenting out of fear. And so I think that then it it means you're going to be watching your kids' dating life with a fear of what's going to go wrong instead of trusting that it is often in the heartbreak or in the stumbles that we learn what we do want. To your point, like it is, our kids have to have those experiences to teach them about themselves. So I think that when a divorced parent is so concerned about their kid repeating some kind of unhealthy pattern, I think that parent then is going to be watching really fearfully and kind of missing that there's a normative range of stumbles, kissing some frogs before you kind of get to somebody you can make a relationship with. So I would just want kind of extra caution, extra self-care and self-compassion for parents who've gone through divorce as they're watching their
Mm.
kids start to date.
Yes. I always think about the sort of analogy the parenting is like, your kid's walking along the edge of a cliff and your job is not to like throw a lasso on them and like or a climbing rig and like tether them
Mm-hmm.
to the edge of the cliff. It's really to like kind of walk at a distance, got your arms out ready to catch them when they fall, but let them slip and let them stumble and let them, and it's so
Yeah.
it's like the hardest part of being a parent, right? Is that you don't want your kids to get
So
hurt. But
hard.
then if you look at your own life experience, as you said, they're fucking growth opportunities. And I want my kid
Mm-hmm.
to grow. I do. I
Yeah.
don't want to protect him from all the growth that's available to him in these moments. But
Yes.
also, I don't
Even
ever want him to hurt.
no,
You know?
that's right. That's right. That's
And
right.
also,
Yes, that's
ah!
right. Is there any way of learning and growing without pain? Please, I would
Yeah.
take that choice for my kid. I
Right,
know, I know.
exactly, exactly. Ah,
Well, it's why I think it's why it's so important for us as parents to be in conversation with other parents, so that we can then take
yes.
all of our big, scary, awful thoughts, to our peers instead of playing them out with our kids, to have,
Hmm.
yeah, to just be it because it is the stuff does rattle around in our heads and keep us awake at night. Like that's all very real. And it's ours to manage and, resource ourselves.
That's right. That's right. We all need to be in our doing our own work.
Yeah.
And to bring back what you said earlier, that allowing our kids to have their own path and their own healing journey and not sort of co-opt it from them and make it about
Yeah.
ourselves it's so important. How do you have these conversations, let's say maybe with your own kids, where you're kind of holding space for both of these things? Like I've lived life and I have some
Right.
answers and I'm a, clinical professional. And also you need to have your own experience and live your own life and have your own growth experiences.
This gets to the question that you just asked, but one of the things I was thinking about also as a generational difference is what I've seen. I'm no longer kind of shocked by it because I've gotten used to it. But I remember when it was it was very startling to me when I first started to meet parents of young adults who knew so much about their kids' love lives, parents who who understood about their like emerging adult son's erectile dysfunction, parents who knew about their kids' first sexual experience, like all this stuff, like where kids were opening up to their parents in ways I was like, what are these kids doing? Like my mom knew shit about my love life ever,
hell no. Hell
and
no.
so, but now it is normal. And I think it's a really cool transition, like that the family system has made, that there's like kind of a flattening of the hierarchy. And so young adults today really do come to their parents with relationship concerns and questions. But I think the challenge for us then as like sort of Gen X parents is this was not modeled for us. So we're kind of like, whoa, like I know I have moments with my kids where like it's such a privilege, but I'm also aware that there are things that I have access to in my own kids' lives that my mom didn't have access to about my life,
Sure.
And I think there's a generational difference going on.
Do you think that's healthy that we know so much about our kids? Like, is it like the like, oh, my mom's my best friend, but should she be? Like, is that right? How do you feel about that?
I think in general, I feel really good about it, just because I think the world has become such a more unstable, polarized, intense, place.
Yes.
That to feel like your parents are your soft place to land, like that's just really important, And I think of course it can go too far.
Yeah. Right. We want to avoid enmeshment, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. But I think there's something that's so, I don't know. I mean, I certainly see more benefit than risk in the kind of emotional closeness that I see and feel. What do you think about it?
I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I do have that kind of relationship with my son. And I think for the most part, I think the way that I differentiate it is that I let him take the lead in it. Like I'm not prying, I'm not asking too many questions. I'll open the door, but if he's not walking through it, I'm not forcing it. Right. And so it kind of, if it comes from them, I think it's great. You do want to be the safe place to land. Our parents were not. They just were not, and that's no fault of their own, but they just weren't raised in a culture where there was any opportunity for them to have any idea what to do with that.
Yeah. And also, by the way, I have 2 kids. I have a son and a daughter, and I won't say which is which, but one of them is a total open book. And the other one, it's like, if the stars are aligned, and everything is like just right, they will open up to me. But even in my own household, I've got 2 that are quite different. And I think, so I want to also normalize that sometimes kids are closed books, not because, and I don't think it's because I suck as a parent and I'm not safe for this one kid of mine to come to. It's not that. It's just that this kid rolls different. And this kid,
That's right.
has more
That's
privacy.
right.
And I need to wait until, but I know that with her, when the door opens, I have to be so careful to not bust on through, to just
absolutely
slow myself down and be, and because whatever she's sharing in that moment, it's just sacred. And I have to resist my like giddiness to be like, okay, well, let's break it down and let's So I think it's also like learning your kid. I really like that idea of following their lead and maybe also, and when you do have a kid who's an open book, I think then you do have, I know with my open book kid, I give myself, I speak up more. I'm a little bit more kind of open in my observations, but I think I also have to keep myself in check, because, because it still is his to figure out, he's got to figure out his own patterns and stuff.
Yeah, totally. We could do this all day, Alexandra, but can you tell everyone where to find you? I think your podcast is absolutely a vital resource for everybody. So where can everybody find you, your work, everything you do? And your course.
Yes. The best way is through my website, dralexandrasolomon.com. The podcast is Reimagining Love, and it's available. It's a weekly show available wherever you listen to your podcast. But on the website, dralexandrasolomon.com, you'll find links to my books and my e-courses. That one that I was mentioning before is called Intimate Relationships 101. And, we are really careful to not turn people away for financial barriers because the information is so good and important. So take a look there and, reach out to my team if you need. Yeah, and then
Wonderful.
On social media, I'm on all the socials.
All the socials. And now recently on Masterclass. Is that out yet? Is it out?
Yeah, it is.
I love it.
I know it is a really wonderful partnership that I'm doing with a new product that is really an unfolding product called Masterclass in Practice. And so for the next year, we're launching courses, and the first one is available, and it's all about anxiety. And there'll be another one available in May. So every few months you'll get one. So it's part of your Masterclass membership, and I'll make sure that you have the link for the show notes to have people go there. And it's masterclass.com/ I think it's called Anxiety Toolkit, but it's Masterclass in Practice, and it's really such a robust offering. And everything. There's so many incredible courses on their platform.
They've really, yeah. I mean, I think I joined like the first year, and there was a few things, but now it's become just enormous. So it's really cool. Really cool. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, Alexandra. I love talking to you as always. Your work is just so important, and I'm just grateful for you in the world, and certainly in my world. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. You know that I've sent so many people to your work because it is deep and it's robust and it's very trustworthy in a space that I think is where trustworthiness is, a premium. So I appreciate you and the care that you bring to everything that you do as well.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.